Today we are talking toads.
Alright, so in this video we're talking about two toad species from New Jersey. The American toad, Bufo americano, or Bufo americanus, sorry about that, and the Fowler's toad, Bufo woodhousei fowleri. Now these toads are the two most common toads in New Jersey. New Jersey actually has three toads, but we have these two toads which are very similar and have pretty much very similar habitats, as well as they also will hybridize. So let's get into this video talking about the two toads, and I got my little buddy Dirt here for this video. Alright, let's get into it. So let's get into the size and appearance of these toads. So, as I put little Dirt up here, don't hop off. So both toads get around 2 to 3 inches. Some are larger, some are smaller, but the average about 2 to 3 inches. Fowler's toads will be kind of a dark gray to a brown color like this guy here, and they'll have a line going from the top of their head all the way to the back of their body, which you can see here. That is pretty characteristic of the Fowler's toads. American toads, on the other hand, are about the same size, same color, but they also can be brown, gray, olive, red, orange, all these other cooler colors that the Fowler's toads usually are not. Then American toads and Fowler toads, they're very hard to tell apart though. A good way is that in American toads, they have one or two large blotches on their chest. And their chests are actually usually spotted. Like this guy, he has a spotted chest, saying that he is an American toad. American toads also do have the line down the back, which is why it's okay to show the line using this toad. But you can also see that the warts are actually enlarged in a few areas, like behind their eye and whatnot. But that's the size and appearance of the American toad and the Fowler toad. But then the hybrids, you'll actually see them being kind of like a mix between the two, because some of them will have the spots, but not the orange tibia, and it just gets a lot more confusing. And it's actually because some American toads don't have spots, some Fowler's toads do have spots, so it gets a little confusing to tell them apart. But let's hop into the next category. So now, with these guys being in the frogs, even though they are toads, all toads are frogs, not all frogs are toads. Just like how all tortoises are turtles, but not all turtles are tortoises. Kind of cool. But, so let's get into the calls of the American toad and of the Fowler's toad. So the American toad has a long musical trill. It lasts about 6 to 30 seconds, and there are about 30 to 40 trills per second. Fowler's toad, on the other hand, is more of a nasal wah, not so nice sounding. It kind of sounds like a baby crying, and it lasts between 1 and 4 seconds. So this, but then, which I'll play here before I get on. Now, the hybrids can either be a mix of the two. They can sound more like Fowlers, they can sound more like American. It's really hard to tell what a hybrids will sound like, because depending on the hybrid, some will have more American, some will have more Fowlers, so it can have a lot of diversity in these hybrids. But let's hop into the next category. Alright, so the third category is the habitat. And as always, we'll start with the American toad. So they can be found anywhere from backyards to woodlands. Pretty much any forest with a semi-permanent to permanent body of water. So anything from a pond, a swamp, a lake, to a vernal pool. They usually like areas that don't have fish, though, to lay their eggs, because that makes sense. No fish, no one's going to eat their eggs. And then they also need a shelter. Not a shelter. They do like hiding under shelter, such as fallen logs and debris, but I'll get into that later. But they, as I was saying with the water, they do need a shallow body of water to breed in the spring, which is usually a vernal pool, but it can be anything, as I said. It could even be a puddle that'll last long enough. But unlike frogs, toads don't need to always be near the water, so they can go further distances away from water, and they're going to be completely fine. They're not going to dry up and get in danger. So now, Fowler's toads, they are also found across the entire state. But these guys, you can find them more in sandier habitats. So as with the American toad, they like semi-permanent to permanent bodies of water, but you'll find them in more sandy habitats, they're a lot more common down in the pine barrens, for example. But American toads are also common there, so it's really just a catch-22 on what you find, and not the easy to tell apart, as I've said before, but yeah, and their habitats overlap a lot. So let's get into the next category. Alright, so let's get into the number found and a few tips and tricks to find them. So I have found so many of these toads of both species, because I go to some hiking spots in the spring and summer after they all come out of their tadpoles, and the ground is just littered in them. Don't jump. You jumped. This is why I usually don't have my toad. But it's a toad video. I gotta have the toad. So, as I said, I found many, and the best way to find them as babies is just to go at the right times in the right places, and they'll be littering the ground. I'm not joking. And they'll be leaving the pond like crazy, looking for food, looking for safety. But if you're gonna want to look for adults, a good idea is looking under logs, rocks, and maybe even pieces of wood that are left out. So I actually found a lot of them by flipping over discarded pieces of wood or metal, because the toads will often hide under there, because it's usually a little bit moister, a little bit cooler, so during the day they can hide there. Then at night they can go out and hunt. You can also easily find them when you're looking around at night, because they'll be hopping around looking for food like a happy little toad. They also are, I wouldn't say territorial, but they often will have a home base to say, where in the morning these toads will go back to the same spot that they usually do to spend the day hidden. Alright, so now they're breeding season. They breed from March to June, both species, so that's why you'll often get hybrids if they're living in the same area and all that. But you can find toads anywhere from March to September. That's pretty much the good time period to find them, because they're everywhere. And close in kind of summer and fall, that's when the babies are going to be leaving the water, and that's when you can find a lot of babies, which is really cool. Alright, so let's hop with this little toad into the next category. You gonna hop for me? You gonna hop? No? When I say hop, he doesn't hop, but when I don't, he hops. Okay, let's get into it. Alright, so the final category, the interesting facts about the American toad and the Fowlers toad. So let's start with the American toad. So they are highly nocturnal, meaning that they are usually active at night, and as I was saying before, they like to go to the same spot every morning. So that's why people will often set up empty flower pots in areas where there are toads found, because they'll see the toad returning there pretty much every morning, and that'll be their own little toad house, which is absolutely adorable. So if you have kids and you have toads in the same area, leave out little flower pots or something like that, and there'll be toad houses. So the little kids will see the toad there every morning, and it'll be cute and all that, which is awesome. But another fact about them is that they inflate their body to avoid being eaten. So if he feels in danger, he'll puff himself up to make himself a little bigger and harder for something like a snake of garter species or a hognose to swallow. But hognoses are really cool because they have the rear fang, which actually pops the toad, but that's a whole other thing. When I talk about the garters, the hognose eggs, words being confused. But so that's a few cool facts about the American toad, and now let's hop into the Fowlers. So Fowlers toads are the most toad species to hybridize, if that makes sense. So Fowlers toads hybridize with most other species. So in New Jersey, they only hybridize with the American toad, but if you go out to other places where Fowlers toads are found, because their range is ginormous, they'll often hybridize with Great Plains toads, American toads, and other closely related bufo toads. So, for some reason, Fowlers toads just get around with breeding and hybridize with any species. So, if you guys like this video, please don't forget to hit the like button. Please don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more like this and more herping videos, because soon it's going to be warmed up. Even though it was snowing a few minutes ago, which is not a good sign, but soon, I promise you guys, I'll be out there herping. Alright, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Let's hop out. Hop. Whenever I say hop, he doesn't hop. But other times, he'll just hop off my hand. Alright, see you guys in the next video.